Hey, what's going on, family? Thank you for tuning in with me to this week's episode. Join us here today as we begin our discussion on a restoration for Israel in Ezekiel chapter 36. Today, here on the Last Things podcast. Hey, what's going on, family? It's your boy Damien coming to you once again with another fantastic episode of the Last Things podcast, where we on a journey to truth. It is indeed an honor and a privilege to come before you once again as we discuss the Word of God. Let me pull this microphone up a little bit because I sound like I'm far away from it. How's everybody doing on today? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I greatly do appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate it. We are in Ezekiel chapter 36. Okay. Let me hold on. Let me get this out the way because this might be a two-part episode. Okay. You guys keep your boy lifted in prayer. Next Tuesday, I have a procedure that I gotta have done in the hospital. So I will be going under. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get an episode out next week. I'm going to do my very best to before this procedure. But if I don't, just know that's what's going on. Okay. So I'm going to tell you ahead of time now. I might not be able to get an episode out next week because I don't know how long the anesthesia is going to be in my system. So we're going to see. But just keep your boy lifted in prayer. Okay. I greatly appreciate it. Now I got that out of the way. We are in Ezekiel chapter 36, okay? Last week we talked, God was speaking about, let me get my notes because I didn't pull up chapter 35 in front of me. Well, God was talking about the land of Moab, Mount Seir, Moab, Mount Seir, which is Edom, okay? God was talking about was beginning to pass judgment on the land, right? So what have we been dealing with through the whole chapter of Ezekiel? God has been using Ezekiel to tell the people about their state, so to speak. And that he's been telling them about, hey, if you guys don't stop all this that's going on, God had already pronounced judgment on the land. It was up to them whether or not they would heed the warning, and they weren't listening to the warnings that Ezekiel was giving them. So what ended up happening? God left his presence, left the temple that was there. His presence left the temple. We saw in the earlier chapters, and God began to pass judgment on the nation on Israel for all of the idolatry and the sin that was going on in the land, right? So all of that, what did he do? He sent Nebuchadnezzar to wipe out Jerusalem. Now, as I've said before, Nebuchadnezzar has come through. This is his third and final time, and he has wiped out Jerusalem completely this time. The first time he came, he took back a bunch of people, right? Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were a part of that first crew, okay? So when you read Daniel picks up right when he returns with Daniel and the three Hebrew boys, okay? So then later on, Nebuchadnezzar comes back again, and he takes more people back to Babylon with him. Ezekiel is a part of that second crew that he takes back. So as you're reading Ezekiel, when God tells him to prophesy to this and prophesy to certain people, Ezekiel is not in the land of Jerusalem. Ezekiel is just speaking out where he is in Babylon. He is in Babylon, okay? Throughout Ezekiel, Ezekiel is in Babylon. You will think he's in Jerusalem because God is telling him, speak out. But no, Ezekiel is in Babylon, okay? So he's prophet. Everything that God is saying, Ezekiel is saying it aloud where they are in Babylon, okay? Now, while Ezekiel is in Babylon, I'm about to say Nebuchadnezzar, not Nebuchadnezzar. While Ezekiel is in Babylon, Jeremiah, however, is in Jerusalem. And he's telling them what God is about to do, that Nebuchadnezzar is about to come and destroy the land. And of course, they're not listening, okay? We're going to get to Jeremiah's side of this maybe next year because we're almost through with Ezekiel. We're in Ezekiel 36. I think it's only 42. I think it's like 42 chapters. So I think it's 42 chapters. So we've got like 6 or 7 chapters left. So it's a toss up right now as to where we're going to go next. Either it's going to be Jeremiah or it's going to be Isaiah. But because we're sticking with this whole theme of the children of Israel, what's going on with them, I'm leaning more towards Jeremiah. I'm leaning more towards Jeremiah because since we're sticking with this theme, we might as well go on and get the other side of it from Jeremiah's point of view as to what's happening. So I'm thinking that's where we're going. But anyway, that's where Jeremiah is. So when you're reading Jeremiah, Jeremiah is saying the exact same thing in Jerusalem that Ezekiel is saying in Babylon. So God is using 2 prophets to convey the same message. Okay. So what ended up happening? Nebuchadnezzar comes through and he wipes out Jerusalem, just as God said he was going to do. Right. So now the Israelites are gone into the 70-year captive Babylonian exile, which lasts 70 years. Right. So God has pronounced judgment not only on them, but on the land. Okay. Now we are here in Ezekiel chapter 36. These last couple of chapters, God has been talking about restoration towards talking about restoration and what's going to happen when they come out of the Babylonian exile. Okay, the children of Israel. So now we are here at Ezekiel chapter 36, where God is continuing the restoration for Israel. He's continuing with telling them, this is how I'm going to restore Israel. Okay. So I want to just give a brief overview of what's going on in Ezekiel. Okay. So let's do this. We are in Ezekiel chapter 36 and let's go to verse 1. All right. So give me a minute. I'm going to share my screen. And there it is. Okay. All right. We're here at Ezekiel chapter 36. Okay. So let's do this. Let's go to verse 1. Okay. And as you can see, I have New Living, Amplified, and King James. Okay. But we're going to read this out of the New Living Translation. Okay. So let's go. Chapter 36, verse 1. Son of man, prophesy to Israel's mountains. Give them this message. Now, remember, God has already prophesied against the mountains of Israel in the earlier chapters. Okay. I think it's chapter 6 that he prophesied against the mountains of Israel. Okay. Give them this message. O mountains of Israel, hear the word of the Lord. Verse 2. This is what the sovereign Lord says. Okay. Hold on. Let me stop right here. Verse 1, son of man, prophesy to Israel's mountains. So this is God telling Ezekiel Say this to the mountains, okay? So, verse 2, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Your enemies have taunted you, saying, now the ancient heights belong to us. Therefore, son of man, verse 3, therefore, son of man, give the mountains of Israel this message from the sovereign Lord. Your enemies have attacked you from all directions, making you the property of many nations and the object of much mocking and slander. Okay. So, who is God speaking to? This is God talking to the mountains of Israel. Okay. We saw last chapter he was talking to Mount Seir. And as we got to continuing to read, not only was he talking to the Mount Seir, he was talking to the Edomites as well. Okay. So let's keep reading to see exactly who God is speaking to this time. All right. Verse 4, therefore, O mountains of Israel, hear the word of the sovereign Lord. He speaks to the hills and mountains and he speaks to the hills and mountains, ravines and valleys, and to ruined wastes and long deserted cities that have been destroyed and mocked by the surrounding nations. So, God is saying now he's speaking to the land of Israel. Remember, God already pronounced judgment against the land. I think it's in Ezekiel. I'm not going to pull it up on here, but I think I got it down. In Ezekiel chapter 6, verse 3 through 7. Let me read it to you. It's in Ezekiel chapter 6. This is where God was speaking against the mountains of Israel. All right. This is what he said. Proclaim this message from the sovereign Lord against the mountains of Israel. This is what the sovereign Lord says to the mountains and hills and to the ravines and valleys. I am about to bring war upon you, and I will smash your pagan shrines. All your altars will be demolished, and your places of worship will be destroyed. I will unalive your people in front of your idols. I will lay your corpse in front of your idols and scatter your bones around your altars. Wherever you live, there will be desolation, and I will destroy your pagan shrines. Your altars will be demolished, your idols will be smashed, your places of worship will be turned down, and all the religious objects you have made will be destroyed. The place will be littered with corpses, and you will know that I am the Lord. Okay? This is what God promised. This is the prophecy that God had concerning the land of Israel, which we know everything God said came to pass. How do we know that? Because Nebuchadnezzar came through and completely leveled Jerusalem. Completely. This third and final time. Okay. So now here we are, 30 chapters later, the same land that God pronounced judgment on. Look at what God is saying now. Let's read verse 4 again. Therefore, O mountains of Israel, hear the word of the sovereign Lord. He speaks to the hills and mountains, ravines and valleys, and to the ruined wastes and long deserted cities that have been destroyed and mocked by the surrounding nations. We already know the Ammon, Edom, Philistia, Moab. Those were some of the surrounding nations that were mocking Israel for what had happened to them. Okay. Verse 5. This is what the sovereign Lord says. My jealous anger burns against these nations, especially who? Edom. Why? Because they have shown utter contempt for me by gleefully taking my land for themselves as plunder. God said, I really had an issue with Edom because they were trying to take my land. God said it's his land. He said they were trying to take my land as theirs. Remember, what did they say? We don't care that God is there. The Edomites knew that God would be at that land, but yet they did not care. They wanted the land. So God said, I was really angry. I was angry at the nations around, but I was really angry at Edom. And what did we discover? Edom was no longer around. Well, I think I'm kind of skipping ahead about that. I'm skipping ahead. I'm sorry. Let me get to it. Verse 6. Therefore, prophesy to the hills and prophesy to the hills, the ravines, and valleys of Israel. This is what the sovereign Lord says. I am furious that you have suffered shame before the surrounding nations. He's talking about the land, of how it's desolate. All right. Therefore, this is what verse 7. Therefore, this is what oh Lord, what is going on with me? Therefore, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I have taken a solemn oath that those nations will soon have their own shame to endure. Okay? So, what shame is God speaking of? Some of those nations are no longer around. Edom is no longer around. Mount Seir is no longer around. One of the other nations is the Ammonites. They are no longer around. One of the other nations, the Moabites, they are no longer around. The land is there, but those people are gone. That land today is known a lot. A lot of that land today is part of Jordan. I think some of it is part of Egypt. Those nations are completely gone. I think it's Philistia. They're still the name for that land now is Philistine. I think it's Philistine. It's based off of Philistia. But those surrounding nations, I think it's in Ezekiel 25. Those surrounding nations, they're all gone. They're all gone. So when God said they'll soon have their own shame to endure, those nations are completely gone and desolate. In fact, Edom is a desert land today. That nation, Edom, is no longer there. The land that was Edom is a complete desert. It's a desert today. It's a desert. Complete desolation. Now, let's keep going, all right? Verse 8. But the mountains of Israel will produce heavy crops of fruit for my people, for they will be coming home soon again. So God says those lands are going to have to endure some shame, those nations around. However, the mountains of Israel, the land of Israel, will produce heavy crops for my people. He said there's going to be a great restoration for the land, even though they can't see it right now. Because of everything that's happened, they can't see it. But God say there's going to be a great restoration for that land because my people are going to be coming home again soon. Let's look at verse 9. Okay. See, I care about you. This is God speaking, and I will pay attention to you. Your ground will be plowed and your crops planted. Verse 10, I will greatly increase the foundation. The foundation. I don't know what's going on with me, y'all. I'm sorry. Y'all got to forgive me. Verse 10, I will greatly increase the population of Israel, and the ruined cities will be rebuilt and filled with people. So God says he's going to increase the population of Israel. Remember, Nebuchadnezzar came through. A lot of those people died, right? And when God is speaking of the nation of Israel, you got to remember the nation of Israel was split in two. You had the northern kingdom of Israel and you had the southern kingdom of Judah. So the nation's been split in two. Remember, the northern kingdom was wiped out. So it was nothing but the southern kingdom left. So now God is saying, I'm going to completely restore Israel. Both kingdoms, the northern and the southern kingdom, it will no longer be two kingdoms. It will be one, Israel. God saying, I'm going to restore that. I'm going to restore the nation. I'm going to restore the land as it should be. Okay. And notice what God's saying. He's going to increase the population because remember, the northern kingdom was already wiped out. So half of Israel is already gone. So God said he's going to increase the population, meaning more. He's going to cause more people to come to there's going to be a baby boom, so to speak. Okay. You know what I'm saying? But God said he's going to increase the numbers in the land. Okay. So there's going to be a lot of fruitfulness and a lot of multiplication going on. Okay. You get what I'm saying, all right? You know how the land is going to get reproduced, okay? I got kids listening, but you know what I'm saying, all right? God's going to repopulate that land, okay? Let's keep going. Verse 11. I will increase not only the people but also your animals. Remember, a lot of the animals died too. The whole land is a complete wasteland right now because of what Nebuchadnezzar did. Okay? So verse 11, I will not only increase the people, but also your animals, O mountains of Israel. I will bring people to live on you once again. I will make you even more prosperous than you were before. Then you will know that I am the Lord. This is God speaking to the land. Verse 12, I will cause my people to walk on you once again, and you will be their territory. You will never again rob them of their children. How was the land robbing them of their children? By all of the idolatry, the thing, because the land was not good to live on during that time, especially with all the idolatry and everything that was going on. So, do you see how we read in Ezekiel 6 how God pronounced judgment on the land? And now here we are 30 chapters later. God, that same land that God pronounced judgment on, God is now saying he's going to restore that land. Let this bless you. Let that bless you. Why am I saying that? Because if you're somebody that God has cut down, so to speak, he's going to give you a chance to grow back again. You might have lost some things, but God's going to bring those things back. Some things that you've lost, God is going to restore. Remember what I said last week that Ty Tribbett said years ago. God uses destruction as a way of restoring order. We've seen that with the flood. We're seeing it now. And look, we're going to see it again in our time during the 7-year tribulation period. We're going to see it again. God uses destruction as a way of restoring order. So if you are somebody that God has cut down, that God has kind of had to humble you, so to speak, man, don't feel bad. That means God has given you he's humbling you. But trust and believe. He's going to give you a chance to grow again. Look at what happened with Samson. Samson was feeling very cocky about himself, and he told Delilah about what would take away his strength, right? And when he did that, what happened? He lost all of his strength. And he was embarrassed. But what happened? Slowly his hair began to grow back. And in his final point, in his final act, what did he say? God have mercy. Give me one last chance. And guess what? God heard his prayer. If God has humbled you, just know he's going to restore you. If you lost a lot of things, God is going to restore you. He's going to. Remember, God said, I don't want to pronounce judgment on everybody. I desire everybody to be saved. That's what God said in the word. He desired everybody to be saved. But he's going to judge. But just know if you one of the ones who he's had to humble and it's looking bleak right now, don't sweat it. Don't trip. Keep moving forward. Because everything that you've lost during your breaking season, if you're going through that season of breaking in your life, just know God is going to not just restore, but make it better than it was before. What does 2 Peter say? After you have suffered a while. Just know if you're going through your breaking season, man, don't look at it as that's where you're going to be. That's your plot in life. No, it's not. You're just going through a breaking season. Everybody that God uses goes through a breaking season. Everybody has a breaking season. But just know when it's all over, everything that you lost, God is going to restore double for your trouble. I'm just letting you look at it in the word of how he said about the land. I destroyed the land. I pronounced judgment on the land. And now I'm back and I'm promising the land I'm going to restore this land. And it's going to be greater than it was before. I think it's Second Peter 5:10. I think it is after you've suffered a while. I think it's Second Peter 5:10. I'll put it on the Facebook page, but if you're going through your breaking season, just know God's going to restore everything that you lost. Not just restore it, but He's going to promote you for everything that you've lost, everything that you have to endure during your breaking season. God's got something for you. Just hold on, have faith, and keep moving forward. Okay. Now, let's look at verse 13. Verse 13 says this is what the sovereign Lord says. The other nations taunt you, saying, Israel is a land that devours its own people and robs them of their children. Verse 14, but you will never again devour your people or rob them of their children, says the sovereign Lord. Verse 15, I will not let you hear those other nations insult you, and you will no longer be mocked by them. You will not be a land that causes its nation to fall, says the sovereign Lord. Verse 15, where it says, I will not let you hear those other nations insult you. Yeah, because those other nations are no longer around, will not be around. Okay. Now let's go. Verse 16. Then this further message came to me from the Lord, Son of man. When the people of Israel were living in their own land, they defiled it by the evil way they lived. To me, their conduct was as unclean as a woman's menstrual cloth. Okay. So God says that they were doing so many evil things in the land. If you go to chapter 8, you can read about all the idolatry that was going on within the temple. That's where God's presence was at that time, inside the temple. And then look, if you go to verse 6, when God was pronouncing judgment on the land, look at all the shrines and everything that they had throughout the land. Throughout the land. Let's keep going, all right? Verse 18, they polluted the land with murder and the worship of idols. So I poured out my fury on them. Now, hold on. Now, God is now talking to the people now. He's not talking to the land. He's talking to the people. Okay. Verse 18, they polluted the land with murder and the worship of idols. So I poured out my fury on them. Verse 19, I scattered them to many lands to punish them for the evil way they had lived. Verse 20, but when they were scattered among the nations, they brought shame on my holy name. Uh-oh. For the nation said, these are the people of the Lord, but he couldn't keep them safe in his own land. Oh, wait a minute. The other nations started talking. What were they saying? These are the people of the Lord, but he couldn't keep them safe in his own land. They started talking down on God. They didn't believe God for who he was. Verse 21, look what he says. Then I was concerned for my holy name, on which my people brought shame among the nations. They did not believe who God was. When the children of Israel proclaimed who God was, the other nations around say, man, nah, your God, he's not the true God. Look at everything that happened to y'all. He's not the true God. So now God is hearing all this disrespect on his name, his reputation, right? He's got an issue now. So he's hearing all the talk from the other nations. Let's see what he says. Verse 22. Therefore, give the people of Israel this message from the sovereign Lord. I am bringing you back, but not because you deserve it. I am doing it to protect my holy name, on which you brought shame while you were scattered among the nations. God say, I'm bringing you back, but I'm not doing it because you deserve it. I'm doing it to protect my name. My reputation is what God is saying. He said, to protect my reputation, I'm going to bring you back. But I'm bringing you back not because you deserve it, because you really don't. But he said, but because my reputation is on the line, I've got to bring you back. See, this is why you can't stay in a place, you can't stay broken for too long, because God's reputation is on the line. If you are a true believer and you're going through your breaking season, God ain't gonna let you stay there long. Why? Because at some point, we're human. We're gonna get to sounding like Job. God, why? God, why? God, why? And other people are watching you, are watching what you say, and they watching what you do. So God's going to use you and elevate you. And in turn, those people, that's why the Bible say men will see your good works and glorify the Father. So that's what God is using you for if you're going through a breaking. Somebody around is watching, but he ain't going to let you stay like that for long. Why? Because his reputation is on the line. He ain't going to let you stay there for long. God said his reputation was on the line. So because his reputation was on the line when it came to the children of Israel, he said, I'm going to bring you back, but you don't deserve it. But because of my reputation, I've got to do it. Hey, what's going on, family? Thank you for tuning in with me to this week's episode. Join us here next week as we continue our discussion on restoration for Israel in Ezekiel chapter 36 next week here on the Last Things podcast. Love you guys. Be blessed.